Hi everyone, and welcome to your weekly energy update, a general tarot guidance taking a look at how this week's energies are likely to influence our lives both individually and collectively. Much to my surprise, this is where the astrological theme, as you probably heard either from me or from any other astrologer on that hand, that this is supposed to be extremely chaotic and also truth-oriented, but the truth is the painful kind of truth, collectively speaking, of course. Yet the cards show that this might be a really good week where, yes, of course, the chaos is gonna be unfolding, nothing new there, but there will be like sunshine as well. There is going to be positive, empowering, hopeful moments, perhaps a favorable turn of situations, and keep in mind that especially collectively, so this might be really, really good news. Just that, we mustn't take this as, where the clouds are dispersed and there is a clear sky with sunshine, but rather there is like a hole in the clouds, so we get a couple of hours of sunshine, after which the storm is still ongoing. So let's get into the reading and see what the cards tell us. We have first of all the Six of Swords, clarified by the Hangman reversed and the High Priest reversed. Now this combination speaks about progress, and progress from so very many different perspectives. The Six of Swords usually is a very mental, intellectual, even scientific card on a world stage especially. So this means that science or practical solutions like management of resources, an inspired plan, a methodology, or even certain legal compromises are gonna do a lot of good. Of course, they will not solve the situation, but they will provide progress, momentum, advancement forward, and which is really, really good. But with the Hangman reversed and the High Priest reversed, maybe it's not as easy from all perspectives, because the Hangman reverse does mean rebellion, it does mean revolt, it means a certain kind of revolution. So what this might mean physically is protests, but the kind of protests which may not really turn into big violence, they might not really need a lot of anger and destruction and all of that, but rather this is where the act of the protest and maybe the number of people is just gonna produce compromise, where authorities and whoever is the opposing force will say, well, okay, let's talk about this, and the negotiations are one way or another are gonna be successful, because the High Priest reversed is a really big thing. It means breaking the rule, breaking the tradition, breaking the custom, breaking how things always used to be. So this can mean a legislative change, maybe even a constitutional change, but in a right direction, in the direction of progress. Now, of course, this is also going to be very specific to where you live, your country, your local community. So, in some parts of the world, I would expect people protesting to succeed in lifting certain restrictions, for example, or preventing those which, centralized power, scientists and all of that want to implement. This is the energy of a favorable compromise. So something favorable for the people will definitely take place. May this be like legislation where, the restrictions are not going to be implemented. May this be a compromise, especially, vaccinated and not vaccinated, and this new but so very old conflict that is ongoing. Maybe there is some kind of resolution, some kind of middle path to satisfy both. It can also be something purely scientific where maybe the vaccines are not going to be as much needed because there is a cure. There is a very successful treatment. There is something here which kind of satisfies everyone a little bit. And the High Priest reverse is also a really good sign in the sense that even if that solution is very costly, very expensive, this is where they will find the resources to make it, for example, free for everyone. So it's not going to be as bad as we thought it would be, or they thought it would be. Now, from an individual perspective, this is even better news. Of course, the Six of Swords means progress, means evolution, it means a favorable transition, fast forwarded for us personally, in at least one, but for some people, even more areas of lives at the same time. But of course, even individually, it is not a very easy energy. The progress, the momentum is there, but what it requires is the Hangman reversed. It means to making a challenging, difficult, delicate choice, getting out of our comfort zones. And when I say get out of our comfort zones, I do believe that this time it's much more emotional and psychological than anything else. And with the High Priest reverse, well, it means self-worth. And ironically speaking, this doesn't speak about believing in your self-worth or tuning down your self-worth, but it actually means trying your hardest not to involve it in the picture. So this is like a paradox, because what this getting out of your comfort zone means does involve self-worth, but because it's so complicated for you, the best solution is to ignore it, to basically say, well, if I believe in myself or if I don't believe in myself, if I find myself worthy or not, or whatever, must not matter right now. This is where I'm doing it, like it or not, because I see the light at the end of the tunnel, and I will not allow my low self-worth or my big ego or whatever your specific situation is to get in the way. This is where I'm going to solve the problem. This is the kind of situation where something might just pop up in your life, which is very complex if you think about it, as in what will happen if, am I good enough, am I, let's say, skilled enough, do I have enough patience, do I have enough determination in me, am I healed enough for some people, am I brave enough, am I creative enough? And this is where something just clicks inside of you and you say, no, I'm not going down on this road, I'll just ignore it. This is an opportunity, I'll jump into it and see what happens. If I'm good enough or not good enough, that won't even matter, because I'm definitely gonna give it a try, because this didn't happen now and this didn't pop in my life for no reason. So, ready or not, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna definitely try this. And for a lot of you, this might be, regardless of which area of life, a kind of opportunity where you might have been waiting for this for a long time. And it's also tricky, the Hangman reversed. You know that it's not ideal, you know that it's unusual, but because there is no other choice, as in there is a choice to go back into the Hangman upright position, to just stay in the bubble and do nothing, just contemplate, philosophize, spiritualize, but who knows when the next manifestation is. So this is where you might find a very strong courage inside of you, and you'll try it definitely. And this is when I say opportunity or a chance, it is not something, how should I say, constructive of nature for everyone. For some people, this chance or opportunity is to leave a situation, to terminate something, to end something. For example, to end a job, an employment situation, a debt, to walk away from a relationship. And this is where it's equally as progressive, as future-oriented, regardless if this opportunity is for you to start building something or to end something which you don't want to be in. So it's equally as helpful and useful, if that makes sense, but in either case it will definitely require a moment of courage. And for you to go against the norm, what is norm for you, the High Priest reversed. Now next we have the Sun clarified by the King of Cups and the Judgment reversed. Now from a collective perspective, this doesn't translate to something, set in stone, like an event which is bound to happen, but this is also more like the energy is going to play out where you are specifically in the world, and the specifics of this is something that just a few, maybe weeks ago, a month ago, didn't seem very optimistic, was a little bit doomy and gloomy, all of a sudden changes to its best possible expression. Now what that is collectively, it can be so very many things. For example, the COVID, it did a lot of damage and everything, we know that it was a crisis, but it's still here and it's still doing its thing in the world. So maybe there is gonna be a light at the end of the tunnel where the COVID itself, as in the health danger it poses, might end sooner than scientists and everyone anticipated, because something positive happens, like an invention, a cure, or something which does offer us hope. But of course this is just an example, and whatever this is, it's optimistic, as in it's not really set in stone. It is just a feeling. It is something potentially that can take place in the future which inspires us with optimism. But this can also refer to the financial situation. This can refer to the job crisis, the legal crisis, the political crisis. So basically what this energy means, something will turn to its more optimistic expression, something that just maybe a month ago was its more pessimistic expression. And on the other hand, a totally different interpretation of these cards, well, that one is very clear. We had a lot of solar storms and unusual solar activity in the recent weeks. Maybe this week we will have another episode of that. An episode which will actually cause a lot of disruption with technology and communication and everything of that nature. But instead of perhaps inspiring, panic or chaos and stuff like that, maybe some people, maybe a group of people will interpret this as something maybe prophetic or spiritual of nature that inspires them, that promises them some elevation, if that makes sense. So whatever this solar activity is going to be, it is actually going to inspire people. It is going to be seen as something positive. But as I said earlier, every single high has a low, so we shouldn't really look at this regardless of what this optimism is, that it's over, summer is here, the clouds are gone, the storm is quiet. This is where we have a moment of respite, whereas in soon the storm will resume. So this is actually just a glimpse of what we can expect in the most positive way after the storm is over, but we must also be aware that the storm is not going anywhere yet. Now from an individual perspective, it's really positive because it means some kind of emotional support. Maybe a friendship, a new friendship, maybe a new relationship for some people. It doesn't necessarily have to be romantic, but we can also not exclude romantic. This might be some kind of soul connection where the person who you might encounter, regardless of what nature this bond is going to be of, like for example friendship or a new colleague at work, a new client, whatever that is, both you and this person are gonna be mentors or teachers, or you will offer each other a sense of security. So of course this will have the effect of the Sun card. It is positive, a friendship is born. This mutual emotional support is gonna help both of you. And also, maybe the Judgment reverse card is the most important in this combination, because it will prove either a misaligned belief of yours, a fear of yours, or a certain kind of duality in your faith, that true friendship or unconditionality is actually possible. Now, all of us had moments in our lives when we lived the opposite of this, where we might have believed in friendship and, unconditionality and camaraderie and stuff like that. And then something just came along and proved that to us, that we might be a little bit naive in our beliefs, because people just walk away. People are people, really. But now you might experience the opposite of this, where fate proves to you that, there are still good people, honest people, moral people, genuine friends out there. Because, regardless of what nature your relationship is going to be, even if it's just simple a work relationship, a new colleague, even if it's like a romantic relationship, the friendship is gonna be the bridge, let's just say it that way. That will be the big connection, because whatever this person means for you, you're gonna see in them the friend that you never had, if that makes sense. But of course, because the Judgment is reversed, it might take you some time, or both of you some time, to actually have that epiphany that you are gonna be great friends together. Maybe this week it is just when you encounter each other. Maybe this week is just gonna be that period when there is the mutual smile, there is that mutual feeling that how wonderful that person is. That courage where you're not afraid to open up to that person. For some of you, maybe this week is just gonna be one moment where you encounter this person and you have a connection, but it will be just that. For some of you, this connection will actually come online in 2022. But regardless of how this plays out, whoever this person is, you are mutually gonna leave a very positive imprint on one another, even if it's just an encounter, a moment, a conversation, or a business relationship, for example. Regardless of what that is, someone will definitely inspire you and cause you to have that, there are still good people out there kind of moment in your life. So that is really positive. Now next we have the Magician, clarified by the 10 of Wands reversed and the 3 of Coins. Well, from a collective perspective, this doesn't say a lot. It just says that this is gonna be a week of hard work, blood, sweat and tears collectively speaking. This 10 of Wands reversed represents what the biggest urgency where you live is. So, this is different everywhere. In some parts of the world, it's not necessarily the COVID itself. Maybe it is a work crisis, a crisis which targets employment. People need to go back to work. And of course, for some people, the biggest difficulty is that everything changed. So they want to work, but they don't want to go back to their old work, old work meaning before 2019. In other parts of the world, this may be the COVID itself, where the sickness and the healthcare problems and the crisis and an urgency, like for example in my country, and this might represent foreign help, but one which truly matters, maybe sending resources or sending a delegation of doctors over and stuff like that. In other places in the world, this might even have absolutely nothing to do with the world crisis and the COVID. Maybe some places suffered recently some kind of natural calamity like an earthquake and stuff like that. And it is a great effort which does produce fruits of labor ongoing, which will matter a lot this week. So that this week might be when certain urgent situations are going to be resolved with great efforts, of course, but the gratification, so to speak, is going to be there, and that is what matters. And of course, regardless of how we look at this, it's also about money, finances, resources, material stuff, and I do believe that this is the global one. This is the expression of this energy which will play out the same way everywhere. Some efforts to make the global crisis better, financially speaking, to delay it or to try and somehow compensate and compromise is gonna produce positive effects, and almost immediately. Now, from a strictly individual perspective, this is equally good news. This means that whatever you're working on, especially career, especially that which produces resources for you, your livelihood, not really including if you have like a passive income like benefits and stuff like that. This is kind of work oriented in the sense that you do have to produce something or invest effort. You might experience a lot of positive moments there. For example, if you have your own business, if you're a freelancer, this means an influx of work, clients, resources, customers, and of course new perspectives, collaborations or support or really positive feedback. If the nature of your work is more like you're the employee of a company, or you have a superior, you have a boss, maybe you will be offered a better position, but one which might require a small study, a short-term course, or some kind of training apprenticeship. If you are a type of person who is really working on a hobby and really want to make that your source of income, your livelihood, and have been investing efforts into this lately, either just simply working, producing something, and you might have shared that, you might get an offer this week, you might get some kind of contact where it will be possible to actually turn it into what you desire, your main source of income or your job, or to do something much more than a hobby with it. And even though it's not going to be this week when, it just comes together, but this week is going to be when you will be shown the conditions, what it is that you need to do, how your dream is going to be made possible. So the schematics of things, the plan, the design. So maybe this is where your journey will definitely start. And even for those of you whose livelihood or income or material life is not susceptible to work, benefits or a passive income, even for you guys, this might mean an influx of resources, money, help, or some kind of change in the legislation which entitles you to even more. So whatever happens, a burden is made even easier. But wherever these resources or work, extra income, or even the chance to turn your hobby into something very stable and lucrative, regardless of how this energy manifests in your life, there is a big advice here. Save whatever you can for the weeks and months to come. Don't squander it. Preserve it as much as you can. Now, this doesn't mean to starve yourself from pleasure, not to truly enjoy it, but don't try not to waste anything. And this not really for the reason because some doom and gloom is coming for you personally, but rather delayed gratification has a lot of rewards to it. And it does take a very wise and very diligent person to muster the self-discipline and the strength to actually do that to themselves, to delay their own gratifications. So this energy encourages you to do just that. And trust that in the future, perhaps very close future, this delayed gratification is gonna taste so sweet. Much sweeter than it would in the now, instantly. And finally, we have the Queen of Pentacles clarified by, once again, the Six of Swords and the Ace of Cups. And what this means is that it's not gonna be easy, it's not an easy week, but what is very special about it is if we truly invest work, effort, sacrifice, energy into whatever we want, better said, not want, this is where we need to accomplish, it's definitely gonna pay off. It will represent progress. All of us are in a period of transition right now. We might not even see and know very clearly. We might not even anticipate exactly what the final destination is. But if we invest energy and work right now, it will turn into a big blessing because it will quantum leap us much closer to the final destination. And even if we don't reach it right now, that which was totally under a shroud of mystery can be at least looked at with a spyglass, so at least a hint of what the final destination is by the end of this week. So working and actually being consistent, being also very realistic and going with the flow is gonna be a big blessing this week. From an individual perspective, this is even better because it says any kind of work that you have been doing in the recent past, exactly in those moments when that Six of Swords, so progress, path forward, dynamism, the period of transition, was feeling so very blocked, very slow moving or even stagnating, but you didn't give up and you didn't let this deter your ambition and your faith in the journey basically is gonna pay off now. But whatever this Ace of Cups is, it's different for different people, but it will feel so personal, like a personal blessing. Those who have encountered emotional difficulties the most, well, for them it's gonna be an emotional energy. Those who have encountered, let's say, material difficulties the most, it is gonna be like a material relief, and you get where I'm going with this. But this is where we must not look at this at all through a rose-tinted glass, because you may harvest a blessing, a karmic reward even, in that area of life which was the most difficult for you, but that automatically means that the pendulum swings, and another area of life where you had not as many problems or you're really powerful in is where the difficulties are gonna shift to. But because you're, as I said, good at that, you're strong there, you're a pro, you're an expert, you're not gonna find it very challenging. So it's still a blessing at the end of the day. And finally, we have divine guidance here as well, and temperance with the Eight of Water. And this is where this temperance is delivering a very direct message. Now, we are all entering Scorpio season, right? And Scorpio season is very notorious to bring up the past, past wounds, past traumas, everything that makes us emotionally a little bit unsettled. So it's not the most delightful period and season because there is a sprinkle of pain here. Even if the pain was felt, let's say 20 years ago, that pain evoked still tingles a little bit, if that makes sense. So we know that this is upcoming, we know that it's gonna be emotionally very active, and through the Temperance card, the Divine tells us that this Scorpio season is actually a very rare one, because it's gonna be what we make of it, and that doesn't always resonate with Scorpio and the Scorpionic singular expression. Scorpio has a very fated element to it, but for whatever divine reasons, which I don't even want to know, this Temperance card tells us that this is one of the rare Scorpio seasons when it really kind of depends on us. So if we truly want to heal something that perhaps a wound so deep, a trauma so deeply rooted, that we might not have been very successful with it for a lot of years, if we tap into a certain kind of fanaticism where we just focus on healing in almost an absolute way, this Scorpio season, 8 of water, might actually do the trick. And this is how we actually transmute something dangerous, something unhealthy, into ultimately something positive. Fanaticism is dangerous. It is deadly. It is totally the most toxic expression of what someone does with their faith. But it also gives us the power of singularity, where nothing else exists and is possible but just that what we believe in. And if this specific Scorpio season, we try to tap into this like an alchemist, and we really focus that on our healing, on regeneration, and regardless of how it manifests, how painful it might be, or how ignorant it might make us, 8 of water, it can really do the job. This is where we are going to be invited to be our own hypnotherapist or psychological counselor, psychotherapist, and close some wounds that have been way too alive inside of us. And of course, we were not successful to resolve that despite our best efforts. Now, naturally, this will not delete the memory, if that makes sense, but it will kill it. It won't be alive again. For example, if you have a aching tooth and you take the nerve out, well, regardless of what happens to it, it won't hurt anymore. It's not alive. And if it's not alive, it doesn't really matter as much. But what does this week have to do with Scorpio season other than the sun just entered the sign of Scorpio and it basically starts it? This 8 of water might suggest that slowly but surely those bad memories, traumas, whatever our wounds and hurts are, might be bubbling up to the surface from the depths of our souls, just like water, ocean. But at the same time, the Temperance, we're also slowly but surely mustering, almost instinctually, that fanatic type of desire to heal, the desire to be whole again, to counter it. So if this turns into an inner battle, have all the courage and faith in the world, because maybe this time, this is a very rare opportunity where you're let's say spiritually or psychologically speaking, armed to the teeth. The trauma might have no chance this time, this rare occasion against you. So do what you need to do. Go into this battle with yourself, with your wound, with the inner victim. because this time it's your turn to hold the upper hand. And also another advice with this Eight of Water especially, be careful if you are into any kind of escapism, especially if that escapism has substances like alcohol or other stuff attached to it. Don't overdo it, because even if it's not like physically as dangerous, every high has a low, and the low this time is gonna be lower than the high, if that makes sense. So everything with measure, temperance, balance. Escapism is absolutely okay, but with measure. Don't overdo it. Don't allow yourself to overindulge, because you will defeat yourself, if that makes sense. So this concludes today's reading. Thank you so much for listening. And also, I would like to thank each and every one of you for all your support, the comments, the likes, the shares, the generosity that you have shown me. Thank you so much. So with this being said, I wish everyone a powerful and magical week. Stand your ground and fight for your dreams. Until next time, bye for now.